Good morning, everybody. I don't think anybody's online at this stage. Welcome. We are a bit light this morning in terms of councillors. I've not had any apologies from Jackie or John. Have we had any apologies? No. Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm a bit sad about that. We are now live streaming on YouTube. Welcome to this meeting of the Landlord Services Advisory Board, which is an executive working group. My name is Paul Rivers, and I'm chairing this meeting with Terry and Janet preventing me from escaping, which I think is a very good job. Let's go round the room and introduce ourselves for the benefit of a viewer that's not there yet. I think so. Janet, do you want to kick off?
Janet Crowe, co-portfolio holder for housing, Waverley Borough Council and Godalming Town Council as well. Thank you.
Alex?
Hello, I'm Alex Foster. I'm Service Improvement Officer at Waverley Borough Council.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Annalisa Howson. I'm the Joint Assistant Director for Housing Services for Waverley and Guildford Councils. Thank you.
Good morning, Louisa Cotton, Operational Support Officer for Housing.
Rod Blackmore, Tenants Panel Member and Chair of the Customer Experience Group.
Good morning, Rob Stratford, Tenants Panel and Oxford Ridge Committee.
Dave Manners, Tenants Panel.
David Williams, tenant, council tenant.
Paul Cleaver, Regulatory Compliance Manager, Waverley Council.
Stuart Watson, Compliance Officer, Water Hygiene and Lift Maintenance for Waverley Borough Council.
Good morning, Alan Morrison. I'm a Waverley Borough Councillor for Cranley West.
Good morning, my name is Andrew Lawton. I'm a Waverley Borough Council and Farnham Town Council. Thank you.
Morning all. I'm Nathan Thurman. I'm the Interim Head of Housing.
Thank you all for that. Kim, have we got any apologies at all?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. I understand that Candice, who adds up all the money, is not well today, and Annalisa, in her infinite wisdom, will correct all of the things that Candice got wrong, which are, of course, none at all. Yeah. Right. Okay. Now, I am sad that nobody got printed copies of the agenda, which is a very long one today. But for those that were able to access them online, the minutes of the previous meeting is in there. Did anybody have any issues that they wanted to raise up on those minutes, or are you happy to accept them as a true and fair representation? Are we all happy?
Yep.
Okay. Now, declaration of interest. Sharon, have we any? Has there been any declaration received prior to the meeting?
Just ask Babatunde.
Morning, Chair. No, we've not received any declarations of interest.
All right. Well, Bob, good morning. Welcome on board. Any declarations from members that are here now? Right, thank you. Babatunde, any questions from members of the public?
No, we haven't, Chair. We haven't received any questions, Chair.
And any from the committee? None received, I think.
None received, Chair.
Good, excellent. Right. Now, agenda item number 6, we are due to have a presentation, an acuity TSM presentation. as we say, is anyone there?
Hello.
Ah,
Hello.
right.
Yes. Can you hear me? I am
We
here.
are
I'm
blank
blind,
on
yeah.
these screens here at the moment.
Oh.
We're, yeah. Oh, thanks.
Okay. I will just share my screen so that I can go through that for you.
Oh, that'll be good. Yeah. I have to look up, but yeah, you carry on.
Okay. Can everyone see the screen that's shared? Someone just give me a nod. Yes, brilliant. Okay. All right, wonderful. So I will just put this into slideshow and we will go through your annual TSM summary. I've been asked to keep the presentation quite brief. Hopefully everyone's seen the results already. We provided a report after each of the 2 waves that were completed. So one in May last year, one in November. And then this is the extract from that wave 2 report, but showing the combined results for your TSMs for 25-26, with overall satisfaction at 73%, and 4 other measures reaching the 70% bracket, with the highest score being for the provision of a safe home, followed by being treated fairly and with respect at 76%, 73% for well-maintained home, and repairs service in the last 12 months, 71%. 3 measures fell below 60%. That was how the council listens and acts to views of residents, 57%, the approach to ASB at 56%, and complaint handling, which is typically the lowest measure across virtually all landlords, at 27%. The second slide here shows the measures ranked in terms of satisfaction and dissatisfaction. Typically, where satisfaction is high, you would expect dissatisfaction to be low, but of course there is the option with the TSMs for people to give a kind of a neutral score where they're neither satisfied nor dissatisfied. Largely here, where satisfaction is high, conversely dissatisfaction is low. Complaint handling is the anomaly, where there are more dissatisfied at 58% than satisfied at 27%. This slide shows the unique pattern of influence of each of those measures when tracked against how influential they are against overall satisfaction. Each landlord has its own pattern of influence, and we find most often that well-maintained home is the element of the TSM that has the most bearing on overall satisfaction, and that's the case here, followed closely by fairly and with respect. With the 3 other TSMs there, safe home, kept informed, and repairs in the last 12 months, all important factors but less influential on the overall satisfaction score. This chart shows the regulator's data for the TSMs, which was published for the year 24-25, with the bar chart there, and the blue line is the position for Waverley Borough Council's results for this current year. 10 of the measures are above the median and in the second quartile. 2 are in the third quartile, so that's repairs in the last 12 months and complaints handling, but generally faring quite well against last year's data. This shows the difference that we saw between the first wave in May of last year and the second wave in November. All of the measures moved up in November, with the exception of the upkeep of communal areas, which dropped by 6 points, and neighbourhood contribution, which was unchanged. When we look at last year's scores compared to this year, so 24-25, compared to the results for the latest survey, you can see in the green there all of the measures that have increased in satisfaction. The pink-purple colour is the slight reductions. None of those reductions are statistically significant. We would need to see a change of probably 8 percentage points upwards for it to be statistically significant. So they are quite small changes. And safe home and being kept informed have not moved from the previous year. Resident Sentiment Index was used to score all of the free text, all of the open text comments that tenants recorded as part of the survey, and you asked an open question in 3 areas around customer service, neighbourhood contribution and complaint handling. And that gives us an overall score for the organisation of plus 0.98. Every comment is scored between -5 for the really negative comments, +5 for the really positive comments, and obviously everything in between. And the comments are also in the full report attributed to various areas of service too, so that you can really dig into the detail of those comments. Just a summary of those comments, obviously I won't go through all of this, but this is the top 30 themes of comments that were received. The most comments, 80 comments in total, so accounting for just under 20% of the overall volume of comments, was around customer service and contact from the housing services team with a positive score of 3.48. The third line down there is the highest score of any of the areas that were commented on, 4.04 for the staff conduct from housing services, which is a real positive and really shows that that staff look after tenants and show empathy in their dealings with them. The score individually for empathy is further towards the bottom here, fourth up from the bottom, scoring a positive score of 3. The reason it's lower down is just that there were less comments around empathy from staff, but still all very positive comments. In summary, the score for customer service and communication was a positive score of 1.47. A very brief summary here. Tenants appreciate the courteousness and knowledgeable customer service staff, positive comments around prompt responses and helpfulness when resolving issues, some concerns around some poor communication at times, particularly around the scheduling of repairs and following up issues that hadn't been resolved, some dissatisfaction with contractors, issues with timeliness, quality of work. For neighbourhood contribution, there was a positive score of 0.29. Again, appreciation of the cleanliness and maintenance of communal areas, positive comments about grass cutting service, timely repairs, some concerns about safety, some perceptions around a decline in service frequency and quality over the years, as well as communication around repairs was also mentioned in that section. Comments around complaints, the total score there is a -1, which is often the case because of complaints starting from a negative experience. The feedback here indicates some dissatisfaction with the handling of complaints, particularly around repairs, communication and accountability, some frustration with some unresolved issues. So whilst some responses were handled quickly and effectively, some people accounted that there was an inadequate service and a lack of accountability. So both sides of the coin there, overall indicating that complaints is an area for focus. This summary is the summary for wave 2, but the section in blue here is the summary for the combined scores. So overall satisfaction is up by 2 percentage points at 73%, as we saw earlier. For 25-26, across the TSMs, 8 measures increased, 2 were unchanged, 3 moved downwards slightly. None of the changes, as we said before, are statistically significant, quite small changes. Positive scores overall. The ranking that you see on the left here is the results for wave 2 in isolation, with Safe Home at the top, up to 82%. The recommendations that we suggested as part of the report, particularly in response to the comments in wave 2, were around complaint handling, perhaps reviewing the policy, and in particular ensuring that timescales for acknowledgement and response are adhered to help limit those reasons for dissatisfaction in future, alongside perhaps some communication to help tenants understand what constitutes a formal complaint and what is a service request. That is an area that lots of landlords struggle with in terms of those differences, and obviously viewing complaints internally as per the definition in the Housing Ombudsman's Code. ASB handling, just 56% of tenants are satisfied with the approach to ASB, which is a slight decrease. Some people were providing a neutral score here, and it was higher than the other areas. So rather than saying that they were satisfied or dissatisfied, they felt that they weren't able to give a view either way. And it perhaps suggests a lack of understanding in some areas around the ASB process, and what can be expected in terms of action from the council, what can and can't be done. It might help to consider some additional questions in future to better understand what's driving that score around ASB. We do need to remember that in the TSMs, everyone taking part is asked for their views on ASB, whether or not they've reported ASB. There isn't that gateway question that there is with repairs, communal areas and complaints. Finally, for communal areas, satisfaction fell slightly around the maintenance of communal areas. Some felt there'd been a decline in time over that service. For that service, it may be prudent to review the comments that are available on the dashboard, and all of the raw data and all of the comments are there to look for any geographic trends or to determine whether these negative views are perhaps confined to specific areas, specific street schemes or particular services, to review that to help focus where those improvements might need to be. And that's just the summary page again, so that you can see that in case there's any questions about any of those scores at all. Thank you. I hope that was the right level of detail for you, because I was conscious that I needed to keep things brief. Thank you, Chair.
Elaine, thank you very much for that. Now, we as a committee, we have not seen this report beforehand, and so it's come to us a little cold. I think we noted the recommendations fairly clearly. I would hope that this committee can receive copies of this presentation by email, and I'm happy to take any questions after we've received it, and we can pick them up at next meeting in any other business or something like that. Right now, is there any specific questions, Annalisa?
Apologies again for the council that the papers hadn't been issued to you. I believe they were part of the agenda pack, so apologies. I've just sent a missive about that. Okay, right. We'll make sure that that is addressed, and we'll make sure that the information is sent to you. So I want to thank. Elaine. Sorry, I was going to say that my site's terrible. Elaine, thank you very much for the presentation. That was really great. So I think what I wanted to just say is, to acknowledge the fact that we are moving in the right direction in the majority of cases. We are we're not top quartile performance, but we're in a peer group, and we are performing and we're moving in the right direction. I think it's really good to look at that overall satisfaction. And for me, the question, you referenced the fact that the majority, if not all, social housing landlords are not performing well in the complaints tenant satisfaction measure. Have you seen anybody who is doing well in that area, and what is the difference, do you think?
Okay.
And when we had the consultation, the Landlord Services Advisory Board were involved in the consultation for the tenant satisfaction measures, and that was one area that the board challenged, because we felt that we're aiming to say how our complaint service is, but actually it becomes more of a service request indicator.
Yeah, absolutely.
A complaint indicator.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that is something that landlords generally struggle with. Just to give a little bit of context, perhaps, the council's result for complaint handling is 27% currently. The average that we've seen across all of our clients up to the end of Q2, so sort of towards the end of last year, was a score of 40%. So, and that is including all landlords, all different sizes of landlords, different types, other local authority landlords, small providers, co-ops. That does include everyone. But yeah, there's a difference of about 13% to that average from the council's results. I think one thing that we see, to give perhaps one steer, one thing that we see where the complaint score is higher is that communication generally is really strong from the landlord. Across the board, whether it's complaints or updates about ASB or things that are happening in the local area or planned works programs, all of that seems to be very much a focus in terms of sharing and being really transparent and frequent with communication. And as well as obviously in the complaint process itself, It seems from comments generally that residents are looking for that regular assurance that complaints are progressing and that investigations are ongoing. So sometimes giving an update, even when there's not any particular progress, but just to reassure that it's moving along and it's going to reach its conclusion by and giving some guidance on timescales. So yeah, I think it's largely down to communication where we see stronger scores.
Thank you for that. It can help us with our action plan for improvement. Thank you.
And any questions right now? Okay, Elaine, thank you very much for that.
You're most welcome.
There might be one or two questions that we'll drop through over the next couple of weeks before our next meeting. But that was a very good presentation, very clear on the recommendations page as well. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
No, my pleasure, certainly. Thank you indeed.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Agenda item number 7, then our head of service, Nissan, is going to give us a summary of his excellent report, if I may say so, once again in the electronic version. But if you can zip through the headlines, because I think we'd all like to finish before tomorrow. Nissan.
Thank you, Chair. And once again, I offer my apologies for not including the presentation which we had intended in the pack. Also, excuse me, there's one item there in the paper that we didn't mean to go in that pack again. That was included. We're going through some challenges, but we will make sure from next month onwards that there's a clear quality assurance before we upload them. So apologies, and I hope you can bear with us. So having completed almost 3 months here, again, it's a privilege to work with a dedicated staff, and genuinely we would like to focus on customer outcomes, and I can see that already. And again, I think if you, based on these, the presentation today is a reflection about how we can enhance the customer experience. So with that in mind, we have embedded a number of initiatives, which I'll go through at a later stage. And also we'll focus still on the regulatory compliance as one of the areas that the regulators they meet with us on a monthly basis. And we had a meeting earlier this week. We have had a number of meetings with Terry, and we are working well with the panel, listening to their feedback, and ad hoc meetings to how we can actually serve the panel as well. So that's working well. And thanks to Alex recently, with help of Terry and another officer from Guildford, we were able to submit a bid for a vehicle so that we can reach out to our residents geographically, both here in Waverley as well as in Guildford. So we wait patiently for the outcome of the award in February. Since joining, I've had a number of requests from the councillors about some of the issues raised by leaseholders. I've had 2 meetings so far. So this is one of the areas that I will be focusing on going forward, about how we enhance our service to leaseholders, especially about communication, lack of understanding of the bills, and also timely manner where we can actually respond to their queries. So we will shortly be working internally how we can actually put through an improvement plan and bring it here for your perusal as well. Recently, we implemented a number of dropping sessions, and I'm so privileged, and I think I would like to thank tenants panel members, Terry and Dave, their dedication, and for them to be able to participate in each dropping sessions, really helpful. Some of them, I'll go through them shortly in a minute. And also I believe that, Terry, you have planned to attend our housing officers meeting on the 6th of February. Again, it's a great way that we are working collaboratively so that staff can receive your first-hand feedback, as well as you can see the challenges behind the scene when delivering our housing service. So staff update. Unfortunately, the first line can say that even though that's meant to carry on, but Majella has recently left us. So I'm in the lookout for to backfill that post. I've got a couple of interviews today, so I want to. Sorry. Oh, beg your pardon. Sorry. I'll tell this one. Majella, who is the Service Improvement Officer, who recently joined us, left us last week. So we are in the process of backfilling the post. We'll be pleased to know that Retrofit Project Officer we have appointed recently, so there will be a program which I'll go through shortly. And Tenants Engagement Officer has accepted the post, which Terry was part of the panel. She will start around first week of March. So that will help us to work more on the tenants engagement participation. Compliance Officer, I believe that we weren't successful earlier this week, so I think Paul is going to go through again the recruitment process. So I'll quickly go through that, given the timescales I've got. As for the housing management, based on the slides, I think I'm glad that we picked up some of the feedback. One of the areas that we are looking to strengthen in the housing management function is a dedicated resource to deal with ASBs. So we are in the process of talking to our staff, as well as how we can actually strengthen the tenancy sustainment. So those are the two focus we will be working through that. So I'm glad that we're listening to what the feedback is about from residents, and our focus is about outcomes. And also we want to make sure that we work collaboratively with our community services so that we share the same system to identify outcome in terms of the ASBs. Again, ASB and complaints are probably a bit negative experience for a customer. So how do we work through that, and so that we effectively how we can turn things around? But it's about managing each expectations. So we'll be pleased to know that we've already implemented the neighbourhood inspection program. In the past, we used to have block inspection. We have now combined that with the neighbourhood. We don't have estates here. So again, based on the slides that the equity presented this morning, I think it'll be another participation for residents to get involved by looking at their neighbourhood, the surroundings, the state of the grounds maintenance, pathways, and various areas, and so the councils, ward councils can join and offer their feedback. And one of the areas that we will be looking at to see how we can capture those outcomes and make sure that we address them effectively. Otherwise, the tenants and the residents collectively will not participate, because it's all about outcomes based on their feedback. Same thing with dropping sessions. Again, customer feedback again today based on the slides this morning. I think it's a great opportunity for our staff to be out and about, to have the face-to-face discussions with tenants and leaseholders. And the void that we had and right across councils is about our visibility to our residents. So we have organised dropping sessions from now till I think probably June, I think. So we are still seeking feedback from staff, as well as Terry was kind enough to send me a few bullet points about how we can do things differently. The question is about daytime. Not everybody's available. Either they're at work or they've got their own to do. So we could actually look at other ways to engage virtually. That will form part of our tenants engagement strategy. Mentioned about neighbourhoods. Quickly with through. So again, based on the feedback today, complaints is an area where we need to improve, and we will be pleased to know that we have implemented a complaints tracker. Complaints tracker helps us to look at all the areas that we said we were going to do. It's easy to put that on the paper, but it's to have an electronic system to chase and to make sure that those actions are being followed through. And I feel that that will help us slightly in somewhat improving our the customer experience on that area. Damp and mold tracker, again, we have implemented a software rather than having too many spreadsheets. So that's really a area that we have focused on. And next month we will set aside a slot for Donovan and his team to come and provide a report on damp and mold so that you can go through that in detail because of the tight agenda. So, Chair, you decided to put back that item next month. We went through this TSM survey earlier today. I won't go into that. It's pleased to know that there's a 7% increase overall satisfaction. So, but we still have to strive for a better outcome, excellence. So that's how we should aim. We will shortly be starting our review in terms of housing improvement plan that we have been has been worked on since 2024. I think we need to look at the actions that have already been achieved, and also the ones that we are still a handful of them. We shortly be achieving that together with new items that we feel that we need to bring them in so that there's a clear visibility for the board to look at that. Plus, we will also going to be including any internal audit recommendations. So that, again, that we won't miss out anything that, and also is clear and transparent for the board here so that you know what the progress is going to be made. Regulatory compliance, again, water hygiene was discussed at various forums. Councillor, thank you for attending and supporting us last night. That is a separate section so that you have more discussions that we will be able to ask any questions with Paul being here with the policies that he's going to be presenting. Stocks condition service underway, and also final point is about a warm homes program. For this year, this financial year alone, we will be achieving at least 100 homes in terms of fitting various things. That will enhance the EPC rating and a better quality. Probably I will end there and thank you for listening. Any comments and questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thanks, Nissan. Thanks very much. I think that's great stuff. It's very good. Any questions, any comments? You see, it's such a good report. There aren't any. You've covered it all. Thanks very much. Right. Let's move on to complaint update, Q3. Before I do that, by the way, I should have mentioned it earlier. Agenda item 10, the damp and mold update, the monthly one that we put in place. I took a chair decision to move it or defer it till next month. It's a long agenda. So agenda item 8, complaint update, Q3. Do we?
Is Christy
Alex?
online?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
All right, okay.
Hi, I'm sorry that my camera isn't working today, but I am here. Would you like me to share my screen with the report?
Yes, please.
Yes, okay. There we go. Can you see it all?
Sorry, Chrissy. Yes, I can see it.
Excellent. Okay, so this is the report from Q3, and you can see we received 86 level 1 complaints, 42 level 2s, and no findings from the Housing Ombudsman Service. As you can see, the level of level 1s through the previous quarters remained relatively steady, although perhaps slightly elevated from 24-25. And the thing to note here is actually the increase in level 2 complaints, going from 29 in the previous 2 quarters up to 41 in the current quarter. This is the same statistics, but displayed on a bar chart. And as you can see, the level 1s are this line here, and they remain steady, but you can see the level 2s creeping up there.
We're not seeing that, Christy. We're still on page 15.
Oh, is it not scrolling down? Let me just try again. One moment.
Chair, can we just be reminded what the definition of level 2 versus level 1 complaints is, please?
Christy, can you do that?
Yes, certainly. So level 1 or stage 1 will be when a customer contacts the council expressing a level of dissatisfaction, and that can come in any form to any one of our services. That will then be escalated to the complaints team and investigated at level 1. We have 5 days to acknowledge the complaint and 10 days once logged and acknowledged to 10 working days to investigate. If we then send the response out to the customer within those 10 days, if the customer is still dissatisfied with our response, that will be escalated to level or stage 2. That goes to our corporate complaints officer, Sue Petzold, and she investigates with Annalisa, and she has 20 working days to respond to those. Once that complaint has been dealt with, if the customer is still unhappy, they can then escalate to the Housing Ombudsman Service. As you can see here, it says that 94.5% of level 1s were responded to within the 10 working days target, and at level 2, that figure is 83.3%. Okay. You can see a breakdown here of the different services within the housing service and how many complaints were received for that and at which level. So I think a better visualization of this is below in this pie chart. Can you see? Is it moving with me now, or are you stuck at the first page?
Yeah. No, we can see a couple of slices of the pie.
Very good. So as is usually the case, a majority of the level 1 complaints were repairs and housing management issues. I believe that's about 90%. And we have received some home ownership and right to buy complaints within this quarter, which weren't present in previous quarters. And there was I think some delays in the right to buy process, which led to some of these complaints, but we haven't received any in the last 2 months, I believe. So hopefully those issues are resolved. And this is the level 2 breakdown. So none of the right to buy complaints at level 1 made it to level 2. As you can see, it's still a majority the repairs service and the housing management service. So not all complaints that are submitted to us are upheld. We make a decision at level 1 and level 2 whether the complaint is upheld, and you have a breakdown by month of the upheld level 1 and level 2 complaints. And then another bar chart here. So let's move on to the trend analysis. There's a few reasons why there's been an increase in level 2 complaints that we've identified: dissatisfaction with the levels of compensation offered, dissatisfaction with remedies offered, and delays to actions that were agreed and identified at level 1. The service improvement team has additional resource in this quarter. I joined the team in November alongside my colleague Anna. We both manage the complaints at level 1 for the council and the housing service, and this additional resource will hopefully lead to an increase in satisfaction at level 1. I'm going to move on to the key lessons learned. So we've identified a few key lessons from the complaints that have come in. Highlights would include the void standard that needs to be met before customers are given the keys to their property. timely action of remedial actions identified during complaints investigations. I believe Nessan mentioned it earlier. We have a system that tracks all of the level 1 and level 2 complaints, and as part of that system, any actions identified for services that need to be completed after the complaint is closed, that will be logged against the manager with specific instructions what needs to be done, and the manager for that service will then have to upload evidence to show that that action has been completed, and then close the complaint, and we can close the action, and we can also run reports on this. This system went live in December, and hopefully at the next meeting we'll be able to share some findings once it's been operational for a few months. In terms of service improvements, the complaints team has administered training to all housing, or 90% of the housing staff. We hope it will reach 100% in January, as some staff were unable to attend due to various reasons. The housing improvement team is also we are gaining additional resource through a business analyst and a tenancy engagement officer, again, which Nessan mentioned earlier, and these additional roles will help the team drive improvement through the wider organisation and handle complaints more effectively, as we'll have more time to focus on them with additional resource. Additional work to the system is also, to the complaints handling system, is being implemented, and the outcome of those will be hopefully a review of all of the templates. Through our system, we have templates that are sent to customers in the acknowledgement of their complaint, and we're looking at the wording of that to hopefully make that more clear and align better with the Ombudsman Code. In addition, when complaints are closed, we're going to add a damp and mold button, which so often complaints, they will be about multiple issues. Currently, our system only allows us to log it to one service area. Damp mold is being reported often as one of many issues, and we believe it's important to have a good overview of any cases where it's mentioned within the complaint. So we're going to add an additional button specifically for damp and mold, which will enhance our reporting functionality. And that concludes the complaints section.
Christy, thank you very much. Question from Andrew.
Thank you, Christy, for your feedback and report. Am I right in saying that a lot of the issues you're focusing now are on the quality of the management and the type of response and communication with the customer, which you now think is going to make an improvement to the complaints figure? I mean, obviously, we're not happy to see the number of level 2 complaints go up from 29 to 41, which would suggest that the problem's getting worse. And the second question is, you said you're going to add on a button for damp and mold. So can you summarize what complaint type by complaint is currently the biggest issue? Is it damp and mold, and what other biggest types of complaints? Thank you.
So your first question, the quality of response, yes, that's always an ongoing process. We're always looking to get the best quality response we can. We work with all heads of service, and we would like to have them more involved in the writing of the responses. And although they do offer a lot of assistance at the moment, I think that is something that we are focusing on, involving the heads of service even more in that process, encouraging them to reach out to the customer themselves, make that phone call, identify exactly what the issue is. Often our complaints are received via an online form on the Waverley website. I think that making those phone calls is an important step to increase that satisfaction. Not only the managers calling them, but also myself and Anna in the complaints team. When we're logging complaints, we are now calling every customer to check that the complaint is fully formed. Often, sometimes the writing may be ambiguous on the form, and by calling, it gives that personal touch and helps us to understand exactly the root cause of the problem. And hopefully, and that went live in December as well. So hopefully, you'll be able to see an improvement going forward based on that. Your second question, the damp and mold is definitely part of the complaints landscape, but I think there's a lot of more operational issues. I think as mentioned earlier, communication's a big one. Customer frustration at the level of call outs often. If they have an issue, it's sometimes 3 or 4 appointments. So we're working with the contractors to improve that as well. Yes, repairs remains a challenge. I think it always will. But if in the report we did highlight, I believe it's 1,200 jobs a month are done by Ian Williams, and when you consider that, the number of complaints about them is actually quite low.
Thank you. The figure which jumped out at me, what you just said, is you're getting up to 3 to 4 visits to solve one problem. Did I understand that right? Does that mean that
that was just one example of
is that typical?
I wouldn't say it's typical, but it's definitely something that we've observed from time to time. But as I said, we remain having an open dialogue with the contractors. We're in constant communication with the contract manager and the customer experience team at Ian Williams. And when we identify that these problems, that there have been multiple visits for one issue, I say for one issue, what I really mean is perhaps when someone has had a leak and they need perhaps the flooring done and the ceiling and the wall, and there's a repair for each one of those. Instead of them having one appointment where everything's done, they'll have 3 separate appointments. That's more what I was referring to.
Paul, Councillor Follows.
Thank you. To be honest, there's kind of that point I was just going to reference. I wanted just to make the distinction between rework of the same thing or multiple visits for an appointment. I mean, as you know, my mum lives in social housing, and sometimes the appointments, there's 1 or 2 or 3 parts of the appointment to resolve the issue, and that's actually just the standard resolution of the issue. Sometimes it's they go in for the first to check it out, the investigation, the scoping. They might need to go back for parts or other requests, etc., and that's entirely reasonable. So I would differentiate between multiple visits on a job that is legitimate and then going back multiple times for rework. Do we keep any kind of monitoring or record of where we've gone back to do the same job, a repeat rework of the same thing?
That would not be a question for myself. That would be a question for the repairs service.
Yeah, I was just trying to look through the KPI dashboard. So we do collect information with the responsive repairs our responsive repairs team. When we do our transactional surveys with our tenants, we say, was the work completed in one appointment? We can review, as you know, we review the complaints, and as you say, there's a difference between somebody coming to fix a hole and they come to fix the hole 3 times, or somebody coming to fix the hole the first person clears the hole, the second person plasters it, the third person's decorated it. And where we can, we want to pull those jobs together. So it's something through the Responsive Repairs Action Plan, an improvement plan that we're working on, and we've got ongoing dialogue with our contractors around that.
If I may share, I think it's important that we make that distinction. And so, and apologies, this was because I happened to be at my parents' house once Guildford Borough Council's equivalent team had finished a job the other week, and she was given a survey that asked exactly that question. And of course, she answered, there have been multiple visits, but it was completely legitimate that there were multiple visits because of the nature of the job. And so actually the data would not have been, that would have added potentially a negative, what might have been construed as a negative. And actually it's those reworks that are that's the problem. So if we're able to nuance those questions to establish the two different things, I think that would be beneficial.
Probably not within the transactional survey, but when we're looking at the complaints, we can identify those issues. And if I could be given a little bit more airtime, I just wanted to give a bit more context, and I think Christie's raised some of that. You know, there was the focus that the majority of complaints are around repairs and housing management, but those are the greatest touch points we have with residents. And as Christy alluded to, if you look at the total number of jobs and the total number of complaints, we just need to give a little bit of proportionality around that. But obviously, if somebody's got a complaint, there's an issue, we want to resolve it, we want to improve. And also the issue about right to buy. You may remember last year the government changed the thresholds for right to buy, which led to a spike in right to buy applications, which we didn't have the resources for. Therefore, there has been delays in that, which we've been managing through. But just to kind of set the context, it's not that the team was sat there twiddling the thumbs. The team had twice, 3 times as many applications come through in a couple of months around that. And it's great to have Christy on board. Thank you very much for the presentation. Again, just to clarify, we identified that we needed more capacity in the complaints section, not just to focus on getting the complaints out in time, which was our initial focus for the KPIs. But actually we need to look beneath the KPIs. And as you've talked about, we need to make sure that the quality of our responses are better. So that things don't escalate to level 2. So we've put that capacity in by having additional resource to draft the level 1s, also putting the tracker in place to make sure the promises we make in level 1 are actually carried out. And also having additional resources in the team, we're going to be able to do more trend analysis, we'll be able to work with the teams much better, and all the training that's gone on is about customer focus and really owning the complaint and not becoming a bureaucratic tick box process to get through. We actually want the team of focusing on the individual at the end of the complaints. And Christy referred to it, one of the new things we've put in place is if somebody complains, we phone them up so we understand what their complaint is. So we don't go off and go, well, this is what we think you complained about, this is the answer. We actually confirm what's their issue, what would they like to see done about it, and then we can work together to make that happen. So great to have you on board, Christy. Thank you for joining the team. And I hope that just gave a little bit of context and narrative.
Thanks, Annalisa. Christy, I have two speakers, Terry and then Andrew's coming back.
Thank you, Christy. I won't say too much about repair standards because I'll be here too long, but when we look at those complaints that are not upheld, are we missing something that tenants don't understand? You know, is it not a complaint, or is it just a malicious complaint? So it'd be useful if we understood that, and maybe we could do some work on that. But I also believe I've heard that we're looking at a task and finishing group for the complaints process to look at that.
I'll answer that, Chair. So in terms of complaints, we had to follow the strict complaints handling code implemented by Housing Ombudsman. Even yesterday there was a discussion about sometimes the resident would like the actions to be resolved, their issues, but we had to log them as complaints, especially they had expressed dissatisfaction. So that's number one. Number two is about us. I think it's more of a communication about sharing the standards. Sometimes it takes, some of the repairs might take, you know, the various days for various type of repairs for the to be undertaken. I think we can work more on that, and also from the onset we can actually share those information either on the website. I'm sure there are information on that website. We might want to revisit that, but on the whole, complaints again is about the way that we introduced that in December, as Annalisa already mentioned about. Focus is about calling the residents, because that's where their frustration is about, and dealing with them and having that face-to-face discussion with them where possible.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to follow up on after Paul's comments, and absolutely, we must make sure that we're not making a bigger issue because it's an ongoing repeat, which we should be having for resolving a longer issue. My concern is that if we believe that the definition of L2 is the correct one, it would suggest the level of dissatisfaction amongst the residents is actually getting worse, which is a worry, which would that's what worries me most, is that there's 41 L2s, and it's the highest figure we've ever seen based on the information just got here. But yeah, thank you.
Would you like me to answer that one?
Oh, yes, please, Christy.
Yes. So as Annalisa said earlier, that the team's resource has been increased. As I said, I joined in November. A lot of the aim of that is to increase the quality of the responses, and the level 2s. There's a bit of a time lag between once a level 1 is investigated, responded to, and then when the escalation comes. So I believe that part of the issue with the increase in level 2s could be explained by the team needing that additional resource, and hopefully now we have that, the quality will increase, and hopefully we'll see a drop in level 2s.
Okay, Andrew. All right, Christy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, Annalisa.
Can I just make one more point? Absolutely, we've extended the capacity of the team with that aim. I just want to put a health warning on that, though, that we are seeing, it's not only ourselves who are seeing an increase in level 2 complaints, it's across the board, not just housing, but all local authorities. I was at a roundtable event earlier in the week, and councils across the country were saying about how there's an increase in level 2 complaints. And not only is there a low increase in level 2 complaints, there's an increase in complaints that have been generated by AI. And therefore, we're getting complaints that are throwing case law legislation in, which may or may not actually be relevant to their case, which means it's more complex for us to respond to those complaints. I absolutely believe everybody should have the right to complain, and I take every complaint seriously, but I just want to give that health warning that it's getting a little bit more tricky in some areas for us to respond to complaints. One of the local authorities had got some stats and was basically saying that they're sending their level 1 complaints out, and within half an hour a level 2 complaint had come back. So let's hope that doesn't happen here, but we just need to be aware of the trends.
Alan?
Just one very quick question. I noticed in the trend analysis, it sort of says that we have a level of level 2 complaints due to compensation offered not being sufficient. Is this a growing trend? I should imagine it is.
Christy? Or
we have a, sorry, Chair. So we have a compensation chart we adopted recently. Yes, I had to deal with another complaints level 2 yesterday, and they challenged the level of sum that was offered. So sometimes it's important that we need to look at how the customer experience and how difficult that has been in terms of any lack of services. So I think we need to revisit that, and we have actually benchmarked with C1 London local authorities like Westminster as well. So sometimes it's very difficult to address that.
Okay, thanks everybody. Christy, we have to say that we have no complaints with your report. So you can't add one to the total number on that. Oh, Annalise is going to add one.
I'm sorry, being doomful about AI. What I also want to say is actually we've missed a trick on the complaints report. It used to be the customer feedback report, and we would also share information about compliments that we'd received. So I would ask that Christy, for the annual report, if we can make sure we've got compliments. I had a beautiful one last month, just before Christmas, where a tenant got in touch to basically say that we needed to clone one of our officers who had been empathetic, supportive, dealt with the issue she had, but also made her feel that she wasn't alone in the world. And that's the calibre of housing staff I have. So I just want to share that as well.
Thanks, Annalise. It's an issue between AI and robotics in that case, right? Okay, Christy, thank you very much. Pass on our thanks to Anna as well. Moving on to agenda item number 9, budget update Q2. Annalisa, I understand that Candice is not well today, so Annalisa, just cover off the key points, please.
Okay, thank you. So yes, apologies from Gandhi. She's spent a lot of time and a lot of work in pulling together the report for us to make sure that we've got a robust housing revenue account moving forward. She's been working on the 30-year business plan. We've had Savills, an independent consultant, working with us. They've quality checked our assurances, given a little bit of advice, which makes sure we've got a strong 30-year HRA business plan moving forward. The key elements that the Executive and Council are looking to agree around the budget for next year is the rent increase of 4.8%. There's information in the report. That's an average of £6 to £8 a week on a rent increase. We've had conversations at this board before about the impact of reducing that or not going to the government maximum that's permittable. That it doesn't just have an impact on this year, it has an impact on the 30 years of the business plan. We are aware that that might be a stretch for some people, but you know we've got very strong rent team who work with residents to support them in maximising their income, and we're also maintaining that hardship fund that we introduced a couple of years ago so that we do have that support for residents. The exciting bits for some people are around the capital programme, and we've got £1 million for the Warm Home Energy Efficiency Programme. We've got 1.7 for health and safety work, so making sure people are safe in their home, but they said they feel safe in their home. It's great that we're continue to spend the money to make sure they are safe in the home. And then the other big ticket items for capital works is heating and kitchens and bathrooms. And within the capital programme, you're aware we also have a development and new home budget. And hot off the press this week, we've just taken 10 new homes in Farnham, which are, I'm sure Councillor Crowe is delighted to see. That's 8 3-bedroom properties and 2 2-bedroom homes in Deer Park in Farnham that have been advertised this week. So if we go back to the recommendations, what we're asking for is for you to agree, give your comments and feedback to the Executive around the rent increase, the capital programme and the HRA business plan. Thank you.
Thanks. Do I have any questions or Terry?
Yep. I think it's no surprise as a tenant and the tenants panel, we wouldn't really like a 4.8% rise and think it would be fairer if we could go to the cost of living, but it might well be by that time that comes in, cost of living has gone past that. But it's, we do understand that we're looking and planning for the future, but at the moment, the future, we don't know what's going to happen. So, and where that money will go. So it's a difficult one to swallow, this one, but that's our recommendation for the tenant panel.
Thanks, Terry. So at the moment, we're suggesting 1% above, which is the maximum rent, and Terry is suggesting that it is not that 1% above. Paul?
It was just that clarity, as Chair of Tenants Panel said, cost of living, and I take that to be inflation without the 1%. It's just to confirm that's what you meant. Yeah.
So that would be something that we would put forward. That would probably keep Candice in a sick bed for even longer. Paul?
Could I ask then, and apologies, Candice, I know you're not watching this because you're not very well, but you'll be annoyed at me probably tomorrow when you are hearing this. I think for us to be able to assess that fairly at the executive, we are going to have to ask for that to be costed to see what the difference is and to make it and to evaluate that in good faith.
And the point, presumably, is that we recognise that in 2 years' time, Waverley will not be here, and there will be a degree of uncertainty for our tenants, and it's something that maybe some people would think that jam today rather than jam tomorrow is something worth having. Annalisa?
I think what I'd want to say about that is no matter who is responsible for the management of the homes, we're going to have to continue to deliver our statutory and regulatory services. What I want to do as the AD for housing moving into LGR is to make sure that the housing service is in a robust, safe, quality place, and not feeling like we're selling the family silver, for want of a better expression. It's a costed 30-year business plan. Wherever we are in the future, we have that costed 30-year business plan, and we have priorities within that we would lobby to make sure that those continue.
Okay, Terry. Just one question from me. Last year we increased the service charges on our senior living operations considerably. This year it is a lot lower. Is it true to say that we have now reached parity in what we aimed to do? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So for a number of years, we didn't recover the costs, the true costs of the utilities that were provided through senior living schemes. This year, we've seen a reduction in the utility costs, and so we're able to change those service charges. Initially, it had been planned that they would be over 10% increase, and that's been reduced back down to, as you say, to get that greater parity.
Okay, now I would like to move agenda item number 13, water hygiene and Legionella, up to now, and ask Louisa if she doesn't mind moving her two things a bit behind. But is that okay, Paul? Is that something we can do?
That'd be great, Chair. Thank you. Can I ask, Chair, would you like me to discuss the policy and procedure and the management plan?
Yes, please, go for it if it works.
So for ourselves, obviously, we want to bring this to the Landlord Service Advisory Board to implement a new policy and obviously management plan for the water hygiene, water safety of customers in Waverley Borough Council. Is there any questions around the policy and procedure, or would you like me to go through it in detail?
The answer is yes, but can you keep it down to 10 minutes?
Not sure that's possible. Okay, potentially yes. So the policy and procedure is obviously how we want our contractors and how we want to perform ourselves as internally and externally for the safety of customers. We want to make sure that if there is any risk to customers, that we do rectify the services, the service delivery, the contract management, and obviously the equipment on site that people are using. We've got a lot of remedial actions to rectify. We would like to make sure that it continues and the service continues. And through this policy and management plan, that's how we'd like to actually make sure that we adhere to KPIs, adhere to the contract, and adhere to customer safety. I think that was pretty much everything, to be honest.
Right, so I can ask if anybody wants to bring any questions forward. I have one if I may kick it off. Risk is not to everybody's taste, but it's one thing that we have to accept. We have an appetite for risk. In this particular case, we have a compliance requirement that we have to do, which is, if not statutory, it's very, very close to that, the regulator of social housing will expect us to do certain things. Question I have for you is, are we aiming to do more? Are we spending more than we need to maintain that degree of compliance?
Thank you, Chair. No. So that's the purpose of doing the risk assessments and making sure we evaluate, we reassess, and we make sure we spend what is needed. However, where we need to spend more for best practice, we will obviously envisage and obviously pursue that avenue as well.
Okay, well, apologies for hogging it. Has anybody caught Legionella? Any of our tenants caught Legionella in the last 5 years?
No. We've had cases obviously at Ralston House. We've had the issues there, which we've had to put mitigation plans in place, but no personnel have been.
Right. So, I mean, that to a certain extent comes back to my question about risk and whatever. I mean, if people wanted to reduce the number of accidents on the roads, we'd take cars off it. We're not in that sort of situation now. I appreciate that, but as I said, what I don't want people to get an impression is that because of this change, that we have been putting our tenants at considerable risk, because I don't believe that has been the case. We are at risk from taking time over the completion of our work, but not putting people considerably at risk. Paul?
I think just to extend your analogy to the absolute specific, the only way you could completely remove the risk of any kind of waterborne issue would be to remove water pipes completely, at which point you'd cause a very different problem. So obviously it is always a case of managing the issue. As most of you know, I also do things like health and safety audits and other types of joy in my day job, and I do audit Legionella and various things in a military environment. And so as long as you're doing the basic checks, the bit that came up in audit and risk last night, and I know you're coming on to in a minute, was about the contractor that we use to do some of the assessments. Now, that is something that has come up in a much wider sense, in that a lot of new contractors seem to spring up after the pandemic, many of them promising lots of different things, and actually quite a lot of them have either gone bust or been proved to be very bad. And I think one of the issues we've got here is we had a bad contractor doing the testing, but there hasn't actually been any residents put at risk in terms of actual Legionella infection. And where you've now had the testing done, none of them have breached the thresholds that we expect in our sorts of environments, have they?
No, they haven't. We've put in several mitigation measures where we needed to, where we've identified risk. And obviously, again, this is only one part of all the compliance functions. So with water safety, again, we want to do exactly what we do with other work streams and make sure that we continue to monitor and maintain and also rectify any risks to anybody. Because again, without doing regular checks and regular planned preventative maintenance, we're never going to know what risks are out there till obviously we find them. So we're obviously making sure we're preventative rather than reactive.
Sorry, there's a race. I'll take one from Paul and then Nissan.
And just to also check and to check you're comfortable with it also, Chair, to save, it's Paul, isn't it, as well? Yeah, yeah. So to save Paul having to do lots of different reporting for different entities, I've suggested that whatever reporting you're doing on the monitoring is the same report that goes here to audit and to the executive. And I suggested to the chair of audit that he attend our executive briefing sessions so that he can get the same update and give his committee that assurance as well. And obviously you'll be present and can give this committee that assurance. It's more just me saying that the executive take very seriously any questions of health and safety compliance and will review the detail of that until those management actions are closed at executive. Okay.
Yes, thanks, Paul. Nissan?
That's what exactly we are planning to do. Every month we'll bring the stats here, how well we are doing with the remedial work. So just to give an assurance, once again, we have implemented, we have appointed a new contractor. Paul has last week or early this week shared our mobilisation proposals, how they're going to be undertaking the work, and they will go back and come back with their, to firm up their proposals so that we can deliver according to what's been agreed. So I think we need to give the assurance that we have got a firm grip on that. In addition to that, there were 15 recommendations on the audit. We have fulfilled and met 10 of them. So we are gradually working on them. We have implemented them. We met the targets as was set out in the report. So I think we want to give assurance that now Paul and the team have got firm grip, including ourselves, and that'll be brought here for regular discussions and to share the stats.
Well, thanks, Nissan. Thanks, Paul. Paul, you have a guest sitting on your left. Would you like to introduce him?
But we're all thinking alike, which is great. So the left of me is the Compliance Officer for Water Hygiene, Stuart Watson, who will be dealing with the day-to-day delivery of the contract management and remedial rectification and anything else that we need to address.
Yeah, hello all. Welcome for any questions if anyone's got any for me.
Annalisa.
Just for my own awareness, I've sat in these meetings and we talked about water safety and Legionella and what is it and what symptoms would you have?
The symptoms are start off as a common cold, and then it can develop into potential pneumonia. It's quite nasty. You really don't want to be contracting it.
Well, that sounds exciting. Okay, Louisa, if I can bring you to the fore with agenda item number 11. Is that all right? Would you like to cover that up? I'm asking you only on the basis that you did it last time. If you just want to pick out any key points on this.
Pressure and time today. So if the board are happy, I'd just like to focus on the exceptions report. And without being negative, I think the key focus has got to be where we've missed the targets. So yeah, I'd just like to talk you through certain elements. The first one being ALO2, which is the average number of working days to relet a normal void time. Now, I know voids have always been quite a contentious issue. The level of average key-to-key time was 31 days for last month, with a target of 25. But just to draw your attention that those figures are slightly skewed because they were predominantly to do with 4 properties. One was held for A&A works. One was awaiting outstanding specialist investigative waterworks. One required the involvement of Surrey County Council to remove specialist medical equipment, and one was pending heating installation. So with those 4 cases removed, the average number of days was actually 24 that was within target. So that's actually quite positive. Oh, sorry, aids and adaptations. The second one I'd like to draw your attention to is the current tenant arrears as a percentage of the total estimated gross debt. That's TSO1. We have a target figure of 1.4% and we missed that at 1.6%. Now, I think it's recognised, we constantly talk about this in the forums about resource pressure, and the rents team are working exceptionally hard. Currently, they're working at 2.75 officers covering 5 roles. So they have quite an elevated and increased workload each. There were a few higher complexity arrears cases which are now being progressed through legal provisions. And the team are currently out to advert to recruit to those roles. But it is worth recognising the fact that although we've missed our own internal targets, the team continue to exceed the national average of 2.5%. So, as I say, the team are very committed and working very hard. Again, we have talked about level 2 complaints quite extensively today, but just to draw your attention to the fact that we missed our level 2 complaints responded to within the 20 working days, which is our target. Our target was 95%. We hit 87.5%. Again, it was 2 late responses, so I think it's worth bearing in mind we're not talking about hundreds, we're talking about 2. And that was due to internal workload and internal resource pressure during the holiday period.
Thanks very much. Paul?
No, thank you, Chair. So I know in a number of departments within the council, we've got effectively budget savings, as they record on the balance sheet, because we have got gaps in staffing that we're unable to fill for various reasons, and that pressure is obviously getting worse because of local government reorganisation, potentially scaring away new applicants to posts. So 2 questions. Have you started working with Claire, Weavis and Alana in terms of a specific plan in housing to deal with some of these gaps, or at least attempt to deal with some of these gaps? I'm sure it will be unfeasible to deal with them all. And my second question is, obviously that is the collection of those arrears is obviously one metric that we measure. Should I infer from that that there is also an increase in the amount of arrears that is a cost of living issue that the executive needs to be cognizant of in rent setting and in how we address rent payments?
Chair, can I? So I'll answer it reverse order. The income collection during Q3, it tends to drop because especially Christmas and January months, it's all about catch up because people tend to spend the money on presents and various areas. So I think it's across the sector. There's always going to be that trend. We need to analyse that. So I think we
relatively sensitive on enforcement during
we haven't evicted anyone yet. So it's about supporting that, making sure it's about can't pay and won't pay. So it's about can't pay. I think that's where our focus should be, and Waverley are very good at that. And we are on top quartile still. The target internally is quite ambitious. It's ambitious. I think we need to bear in mind. As for attraction candidates, it's always, I'm from London, it's difficult to attract candidates where people get paid a better rates elsewhere. It's trying to balance that. Yes, that's some of the areas that across London, not here, not just here. It's an issue about attracting the right calibre of candidates, because there are people around there, they would have worked all 32 councils, but those are the candidates we don't want. It's about growing our own organically owned staff here.
Okay. All done then? Louisa, thank you very much.
Are you happy for me to move on just to a couple of highlights in the improvement plan?
How could I say no?
Again, just focusing on the key areas where we're off target. We are, as I think Nathan touched on in his head of service report, proposing to bring an agenda item to the fore to give you a full sort of update, if you like, on where we've been, our journey on the improvement plan so far, and to invite your feedback on any inclusions and any new additions that we think are going to make a positive impact to housing. However, just bringing our attention to the 2 monthly period of November and December, just a couple couple of areas again where we're off track, just to be completely transparent with you, is the migration of the all of the data, the accurate data regarding the compliance areas. Now, Paul and his team are working extremely hard in terms of validating, getting all of that data removed from spreadsheets, any areas of risk where we're relying on our contractors' portals, et cetera, to get a really good assurance around the quality of that data. And there's a working party at the moment to migrate that all over to our asset management system, ActiveH. That is a big piece and it's currently off target. But Paul is working up a project plan, which we'll be able to share with you at a later stage, just to indicate the project plan and when that's going to be complete, because that will be absolutely critical. We know how important data is. We know that our performance is based on data. So that's a really useful project that's going through at the moment. The other one I want to draw your attention to is converting the flexible tenancies. Now, we had a target date of the end of November to convert all flexible tenancies to secure tenancies through the tenancy visits. Now, we recognise that we're significantly off track, and NASAN has picked up a project working group there to address and review. And NASAN, if you've got anything to add there in terms of when we're expecting to have a plan, that would be useful.
Thank you, Louisa. In terms of, I'll just generalise that. So there were about 62 actions in the housing improvement plan. I think about 4 or 5, I can't remember exactly, we're off target. One of which is about tenancy, flexible tenancies, as well as voids. So one of the, I've sent an email yesterday about how are we going to wrap it up in terms of talking to residents, whether it's hard to reach residents, to make sure that we explain that. So I have given the ultimatum for that, for us to wrap up that action, probably by, I would say, by March. So that's what we want to do when we review our housing improvement plan, that all those actions, where possible, we will close off and then come to you for you to say, yes, for us to carry on for the next wave of our improvements. And that's our plan.
Thanks, Nissan. Paul, you have...
Yeah, thank you. And just on the compliance side stuff, so firstly, really glad that you're not going to be too reliant upon client portals for information. That's often a problem. Your compliance tracker, spreadsheet, whatever it is you're doing, dashboard, is that predominantly statutory elements, or does it go anywhere beyond that? And how frequently are you reporting on those compliance elements?
Well, it's monthly to the regulator. So they gain a copy of the scorecards and exceptions report, as you do with those statutory metrics. And compliance is obviously the first thing they pick up on. So that's monthly.
So just also, have you done the same in Guildford? Because obviously the other thing I'm just trying to sort of get my head around is that the other authorities in the West, I mean, it's probably a question for Annalisa and possibly for Julian. I know he's probably not with us today, but for Julian offline separately, if somebody could just double check that the compliance regimes for the other authorities with social housing are being treated in a similar way, because I'm concerned about an amalgamation of disaligned compliance regimes when we have West Surrey.
Yeah, that is one of the work streams that is quite long when you're looking at that. So as I said earlier, that's working across Waverley and Guildford. I am working with a team for us to be in the best position possible to move into a new organisation. And we are working together. Paul has met with our asset manager at Guildford. We're sharing knowledge on TCW, which holds our certification. And we're both doing monthly reports to the regulator of social housing on compliance issues. The other authorities will need to work, once those working parties start, we'll identify that as, but it's compliance, it's repairs, it's antisocial behaviour, it's allocations, it's all of it that we'll need to review.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. Paul, you were going to add something. Please do.
Thank you, Chair. Just to confirm as well, yesterday we met with Guildford in regards to aligning contract management and contract tender bids as well as with other policy procedures. We, procurement of those together. Yes, with the, yeah, not specifically Faye, but yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, through the chair, Paul.
My apologies. Yeah, I apologise.
No, just so people can actually hear both sides of it. Louisa.
Final reference point that we're off track, and I just wanted to explain that a little bit, was point 13, which was to procure two separate contractors for the management of our Legionella, picking back up on Paul's action plan. Two separate contractors we want to award to for the risk assessments and planned preventative maintenance works, and then the remedial works. Now we have, we're really pleased that Paul started to mobilise with the contractor for remedials, but we're still out to market for a contractor to provide the risk assessment side. Now that's not anything to do with the team. It's been very challenging to procure a contractor for that. We actually received no bids first time round, so we've gone back out, we've extended that application. It's actually closing tomorrow, and next week Paul and Stuart and the team will be evaluating that, so we hope to be in a position where we can update you with a successful award at the next board.
That's great. Now, Louisa, you'll have to forgive this old man coming to the end of his ability to understand what's going on, but that's agenda item number 11 that you covered off completely, right? And 12. And so from our point of view, from the committee's point of view, are we happy to note and accept the regulatory update to the regulator of social housing from our point of view? The answer, I think, is yes. Annalisa?
Okay. Yeah, just to give you clarity, so the two agenda items you've looked at is you've looked at the performance scorecard with the exceptions report. So the scorecard is all the detail of the KPIs. The exceptions report is just the highlight of where we're off target. And Louise has also given you item 12, an update on our improvement plan. The item you're referring to, we're not sure how it got in the agenda. It's a draft paper that shouldn't have been here. Okay, so if there's any questions around our performance with our KPIs or our performance on the improvement plan, please ask. If not, I'll note you're happy with the progress.
I think we are, and especially with the ability then to move on to agenda item number 14 super quick, which is, I believe, tenant involvement strategy. Alex.
Hello. Yeah,
Hi.
I'll be as brief as possible as I know we're over time. So essentially, I'm just reporting on an update for the tenant engagement strategy, which was previously the tenant involvement strategy 2021 to 24. This new strategy will now be covering the dates 2026 to 29. And this is owing to the limited capacity within the service improvement team, as I'm sure you're aware, and the upcoming local government reorganisation. So the updated strategy should be considered as running from March 2026 to March 2029. And as was touched on earlier today, we should hopefully be getting a new resident engagement officer in post in March, which should be good, as that post has been absent for roughly, well, since before my time when Joe Warrener was in post. So the objectives of the tenant engagement strategy are to embed a culture of tenant engagement across Waverley's housing service, to develop and grow tenant engagement opportunities, formal and informal, such that we have a diverse and representative group of tenants at the heart of housing services decision-making process. And of course, to align with the regulators' transparency, influence and accountability standard. Now, when we talk about growing tenant engagement opportunities, and credit for this sort of initial plan and structure goes to Nathan, I'm just going to go into a little detail. You've heard a couple of bits earlier today, largely about the drop-ins that are now happening, which Terry and a couple of other people have been involved in. There's also looking at things like a task and finish group, a leaseholders panel, because that was an area that wasn't perhaps focused on in previous strategies. Looking at things like neighbourhood champions, a senior living forum, scrutiny panel as well, and an editorial board. So that's just a very quick, brief summary of some of the things that we might be looking to implement in the coming years. And hopefully, once we've got that new officer in place, they can take on that remit and get that off the ground for us.
Alex, thank you very much. That's
Not a
great.
problem at all.
Hassan?
Thanks, Chair. This is only a framework. I've yet to come up with this strategy properly for a sign-off here, and probably it'll go to the exec board as well. This is a framework, and this is one of the areas that we benchmark with other local authorities, and it's all about how we can reach out to residents who have not been able to directly get involved. Some would like to have a face-to-face discussions, and not always possible. Also, we need to look at a bit more innovative way to engage with residents, especially those who are working, single mothers, and those who are frail, not being able to attend to a particular location. The regulators, we shared the same paper with the regulator as well, but the important thing is about us, how we can actually consult with residents. We've already had a discussion with the tenants panel, so we will be looking at various ways to consult and receive their feedback, because that's where the focus is about, not what we're trying to do. Yes, it's important we've identified these areas, but it's about us seeking their views, how they would like to get participate and influence our decisions in the way we provide services to them.
Thank you. I think it's a significant matter of praise, I think, for the extra efforts that are going in. And I'm sure we're all really pleased about the progress so far, and fingers crossed for carrying on with it. And well done, Terry, for getting involved in the in this chat. Anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, just to add really that it's my name's mentioned, but it's actually a group event, and six of the all of the 6 meetings we had this last 2 weeks, we had 6 of our members involved in those, and looking forward to the rest of them. But thank you.
That's great. So hey, we're doing very well. So agenda item number 15, last but by no means least, our forward plan. Anybody want to suggest items for our forward plan, or how we're doing?
That was going to be the first question. I would just like to say that there's an error on the agenda down for next month. You're due to hear the tenant engagement strategy. That's actually the same as the tenant involvement strategy, so that will be removed. So yes, very much. Obviously, damp and mould now is going to be a regular update at each meeting. I appreciate we haven't heard that today. The team are working really hard to refine how we're capturing and managing damp and mould cases. So I know you'll be quite keen to hear that next month, but very much so looking for your suggestions, anything you'd like to bring into the forum, please. We would very much welcome, working in partnership with you, and anything you feel you would like to hear and hold us to account on, please.
That's great. Any further suggestions? We can always take them on the back of a £10 note, ready for Louisa to implement. No, that's great. So, Terry, all right?
Okay.
Okay, so date of our next meeting is 26th of February. See you all then, if not before. Thank you all very much for your contributions today and your attendance. And I understand that 2 of our councillor attendees have a serious health problem, or at least one of them does. And we certainly express our best wishes for a rapid recovery. Thank you all.